I honestly believe that another style of civil war or civil unrest is going to happen. You cannot tell me what's happening in Los Angeles right now is not showing signs of that. Not only that, the last 24 to 48 hours, let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about what happened with politics. Let's talk about what happened to our food system. Let's talk about what happened to our farmlands. This is in America now. We're going to discuss several stories that represents our food, represents our sovereignty and our liberty, represents our freedom of speech, represents truthfully how imprisoned we truly are when it comes to taxes and regulation. And then on top of that, to literally see people, literally swarming and rioting to a point where they are now going after the officers. But now there's leadership in the officers that are standing against their own officers. We're going to discuss all that today because what we're setting up for is another form of civil unrest. And it's going to be a situation that if you're not ready for, I think you're going to put yourself in a very, very bad spot, because if you don't pay attention to being independent and being prepared for this, you're going to be the ones begging for the government to help you. Let's dive into these stories. Hey guys, welcome to The Max. Thank you so very much for being here today. If you are new, please go down here, press subscribe, ring the bell. Give us a thumbs up or a thumbs down, that's okay, but let us know what you think about this video. Now let's dive into these stories. Before we get started on the stories, remember Life with Colby Mac, my other channel, the vlog channel. We've got some great videos coming out today and tomorrow, so make sure you are watching those videos. It talks about living sustainable and building independence on a farm. That's what's so important, because this video proves to what news that we need to pay attention to, because the importance of sovereignty, freedom, and independence is value right now. Let's dive into these stories and disapprove it. First, let's talk about this lady, Miss Nicholson. John Rich shared this. She is almost 90 years old and lives in Cheatham County, Tennessee. When the TVA, which is their power company, their utilities company, showed up, they showed up at her farm with guns, bulletproof vest, and trespassed basically on her land because they were literally needing access, like eminent domain, to access lines on her property. And I told you before, there's kind of through the other side of my property, the very south side of my property, I have an easement line. It was way before I was here. The last person that owned the land tried to get out of that easement, couldn't get out of that easement. Of course, I bought the land, and then I bought on the other side of it just so I can control, because what was happening is I was getting all these random people, most of the time literally were immigrants who could not speak English, coming on my property, and while my kids were playing, have these random guys walking up this area, and not a one of them actually from our local area. And it infuriated me. And they said, well, no, we have rights. I said, no, wait, you have easements. This is my land. And he said, yeah, but this pipeline and this power line is our land. This lady, I want you to listen to what she said. And here's the video. She says, what I've learned is you actually own nothing when you think you own something. She said, my family's owned this land and passed it down to me, and now I'm pretty much losing my rights to utility companies that says they have rights to it. The legality of it. I love what Sean Ryan just said. He said, your money is taxed when you're paid. You're taxed when you invest. You're taxed when you spend. You're taxed when it's inherited. Property you buy is actually not yours because it's taxed, and it's taxed every year. And if you choose to not tax it, you lose it. So when you think about like my land, that's a big deal, because I cannot stand people to be on my property, especially if my kids are here. I've locked every gate to a point where they have to beg and jump over and try to find a way to get in, because I make it so difficult. Now, is that wrong? Could be. And they may cut the locks. But I get so sick and tired of someone trying to get on my land when they think they have rights to it just because government gave them easements 50 to 60 years ago. It infuriates me. And this poor little old lady saying the same thing. She says, look, I have people that farm this land, and now there's parts of it that will be taken over because they need a new line put in. It's wrong. So we see the war on the local owner of the farm, the local owner of lands. Property taxes are getting absolutely ridiculous. I told you there was a new mayor that's coming into our town, a new leadership coming into our county and our city. And guess what? They've already talked about going up on property taxes, on school taxes, trying to get more money coming in. I'm not even part of the school system. I don't even participate in the school system, and I'll have to pay extra tax for it. Well, guess what? That's assessed on my property. Is that wrong? Is that right? that's going to cause a problem for your local conservative, freedom-minded, oriented people. Listen to this, what's happening in California. California Democrats are making a move to crush charter and homeschools. The big legislative tax take out the charter schools and homeschools in California, and it's really here. It's actually happening. It's called AB 84. It just passed the Assembly, and it looks to move to June 6th, and it gets voted on by the Senate. AB 84 will cripple homeschooling and charter school programs that people rely on across the state by cutting funding for over 30%, by mandating regulatory and administrative practices to where it makes it too tough to actually homeschool your children or to privatize your kids' education. So we see the war on the farm, the war on the land. Now we see a war again for our children that says, no, we're more important, we know more, and we know better for your children than you do. So places like California and a lot of these other liberal states are starting to make it's almost making it impossible to try to homeschool or have your children in private school, because they're going to, first of all, not opt out of the public tax that you have to pay for the public school that you don't attend. But not only that, now they're making regulation too hard to where you have to adhere to their guidelines. That is ridiculous, people. All right, now to New York State. Private solar companies are being given grant money from New York State. They're pressuring farmers to sell their land. Here's what's happening. Land in some of these areas are getting to a point where people can't afford the property tax on it. They're not making enough money on it. So guess what's happening? Instead of helping the farm out and growing food, instead of doing that, what they're doing is they're paying for these big companies to come in and basically get grant money from the government to buy the farmer out or cause them to have rights taken away. It says also investment firms are offering $40,000 a month for farmers of hundreds of acres to sell their land because farmers are not able to farm their land because of regulatory policies that the government are putting in. So government is subsidizing people to come in to buy the land, but actually destroying the farm that's trying to have the land and to utilize it for the betterment of Americans. My neighbors came to the farm last week and told me something absolutely terrifying, and this is in New York. He said, I own 100 acres of land. We were just talking about different trends, and we're noticing in this area a lot of farms are closing down and different investment firms are coming in. Well, they were trying to figure out why. He said he told me the other day that 100 acres behind me was just approached, and a solar company pressured the person that was the farmer. The farmer was struggling, barely making ends meet, and he said what they did is they come in and offered a government subsidy program for $30,000 to $40,000 a month every year until the land is quote unquote paid off. So the solar company's not actually having to buy it. The government and taxpayers are buying this land. This guy is in his 70s, and of course he can't actually farm his land anymore. But instead of ableness to pass it down because of the tax and property burdens on it, he's going to have to be pressured into selling to the government and to the solar companies. We're losing our farmland to big ag. Not only that, big business. And this other farmer saying, I don't know how long we can stay and hold out because we're aging and no one here is helping us. The regulatory burden and property taxes are too much. So now what are we to do? Well, Colby, I mean, that's why Bill Gates and all these people are building all these infrastructures to where we can manufacture food indoors. More GMO modified food. Listen to this. This is another story that goes along with how bad that would be for us. Our food is so chemicalized and toxic that wildlife won't even eat it. I told you this before. There's a farmer that I know personally that will literally sell at the farmer's market. And I don't call this guy a farmer. I'm sorry. That's a very loose term because I don't think he's actually farming right. So he grows all this corn. He says it is going to be beautiful. I guarantee it'd be gorgeous. And I guarantee I'm going to have this much yield, blah, 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 blah. And he said, it's so good and so sweet and so perfect. And I can keep all the things away from it. Now, how can he keep all the deer, rabbits, rodents, and all that away from it? Like mine gets ate up a lot, so how does he keep that away? Because he's got such a modified seed that the animals won't even eat it. Prime example, this was shared by Wall Street Apes, and the guy said, our food is so full of chemicals. He said, Americans don't realize how much garbage they're actually eating. He said, today we noticed there was French fries and blackberries on the ground. So we left them because we thought the birds would eat them or some animal would eat them. We were picking up trash in the park. He said, we came back and not one bird had ate these blueberries and ate these French fries. He said, they're so modified, our food is so modified that even the animals find that they're unclean. I've told you this before. When we're growing gardens, we have to grow double the amount of portion that we actually need because it's harder to grow organic and heirloom, but also the animal pressure. Now, you say, well, Colby, you don't want animal pressure. Your wife's been talking about a squirrel that's having a problem with the plum tree. Agreed. But that means that animal desires good quality food. God breathes that into them, the same way we desire good quality food. If we're modifying all these seeds so much and putting so much different modification to it that even the animals won't eat it, don't you think that might not be good for us too? This is the same companies that are buying the farmland and shutting the farms down. You do realize that, right? That's building this modification to actually put your food system grown in petri dishes and grown with scientific research instead of actually with regenerative agriculture and composting and fertilization that's natural. So we've talked now about the freedom of land, ownership, the freedom away from taxes, the freedom of our children, raising them the way we want to raise them, the freedom of our food system. Now let's get serious about Los Angeles. ICE is trying to arrest people in California, and now there has been people going crazy. There's people literally surrounding the detention centers and destroying the businesses, trying to literally, not only protest, but truly riot. There was one guy killed because he tried to stop a policeman and basically got ran over. I mean, is it the policeman's fault? I don't think so. You shouldn't be jumping in front of cars. Not only that, we see that the politicians are coming out against its own officers, the higher-ups. Now, the police are standing firm, and they're trying to do their job like Trump wants them to do. But the mayor has come out against it. Not only that, their own leadership has come out against it, not wanting to assist ICE. So what are the officers to do? Are they supposed to listen to their authority at the town or listen to the federal law? So what side are they actually on? What side are you going to be on? Are you going to go against your own city, or are you going to go against your federal government? See, this is how politics is playing into making civil war happen. I want you to watch this video.
A live look at one of the protests underway in Los Angeles just a few hours after the mass immigration raids.
Between Alameda and Los Angeles Street, they started on the front steps of the federal building at 3.
It says protesters are now taking hammers to cement blocks and trying to break into the LAPD detention center. Another journalist says another civil war has really begun. The battle is like Fort Sumter. The first Civil War started, and now a second Civil War is literally starting at this detention center. Notice there's no American flags flying. It's all foreign flags. Notice we have been invaded. And even though the military and parts of ICE and parts of this administration basically is wanting to assist, the local forms of authorities, the mayor and the chief and the sheriff, are against it. So they're standing up against ICE, the federal government. So we're literally seeing a standoff of officers, but a standoff of enforcement. So we have literally leaders standing up for illegal immigrants more than they're actually standing up for Americans. Listen to this. This is a new article that just came out. It says, estimated total cost for the taxpayers of illegal in the last 4 years, $603 billion. Estimated cost to remove them over the next 4 years, $347 billion. So now the taxpayer is literally going to be at $1 trillion to simply fix the problem that was caused by letting these people in, not including the states and all that cost that they've incurred. This is just the federal government. Not one Democrat has actually stood to help this problem. Not one Democrat or not one person has went to jail for standing in front of blocking the Trump administration. And the last story I want to bring up, because now we've talked about a lot dealing with the dangers. This is the biggest. We have a Republican Congress, and guess what? Instead of having a Republican Congress who is faith-based, have a Christian leader come in to lead the prayer, they bring a Sikh to come in and bring the prayer. Now, I don't know your thoughts on Hinduism, Sikhs, Muslims, or whatever you want it to be. But the bottom line is, if Republicans are supposed to stand up for conservative Christian values, why in the world are we allowing someone to pray to another God in our house? We are a fallen nation. I'm sorry, y'all. That's why I tell you to prepare. That's why I tell you to be ready, because we have wolves in sheep's clothing. We have a wolf in the hen house. I mean, whatever cliche you want to use. And we're fallen. It's time to pay attention, prepare, wake yourself up, because it's not all cupcakes and rainbows. Yeah, your market may be doing good. Yeah, Trump's in leadership. But there is still a sense of urgency, because now, religiously, with our values, our land, our children, homeschooling, the fact that now we're literally looking at authorities against its own people, and we're looking at the battle of our money, because our money is being taken from us and given to illegals. All those protests that were going on, they wasn't waving American flags. Not a one. Not a one American flag was in there. It was all foreign flags. What are we doing? Pay attention to these stories because it's very serious. We need to prepare and make sure we're ready. I don't know if you're seeing these stories, but in California, New York, I mean, this is happening all over the United States. Texas, we have to pay attention and we have to wake up because these bills are getting passed in our cities and our states and they're taking your rights away. Pay attention, guys. God bless.